Hello, everybody. Today we are going to wrap up this unit on subject-verb agreement. It's all reviews, so I'm really comfortable with finishing up the last three sections all at once. So let's go ahead and get started. Collective nouns and other special subjects. Make sure you're taking notes as we go. Collective nouns, there are special agreement rules for collective nouns. Now, we discussed collective nouns earlier in the year when we went through the noun unit. And what exactly are collective nouns? Because I'm sure it's been a while, so let's refresh our memory. A collective noun names a group. It's singular when it names a group that acts as a single unit. An example, team. Team is a collective noun because it's referring to a group of people. The team agrees to save papers. In this example, team is referring to one group. It's the group of people. It agrees to save papers. So team is singular, so you have to use the singular form of agree, which is agrees. Collective nouns can be plural when the noun refers to each member of the group acting as individuals. For example here, the team agreed to store them in their homes. We have the subject, collective noun, team. Again, it's referring to the group of people. However, in this instance, it's not just referring to the group of people, it's referring to each person in that team. And we know that because if you look at the later part of the sentence, we see two pronouns that are like the things that show us, oh, this is plural. Do you see the pronoun them and the pronoun their? That indicates to us that team is plural, therefore you have to use the plural form of agree, which is agree. There are other special subjects that we need to talk about briefly, and there are sometimes nouns that end in S, but they take a singular verb. For example, mathematics, news, they end in S, and usually when we see a noun end in S, we think automatically we need a plural verb, but that's not the case. There's some that are just an exception to the rule. So mathematics, it's one thing. I know it ends in S, but it's a study. So mathematics is singular here, so you have to use makes, the singular form of make. Another special subject are nouns that end in S that name one thing, but they take a plural verb. For example, trousers or pants, pliers, scissors. They end in S, but they're not referring to more than one thing. They're referring to one individual thing. If I said, hey, go grab me a pair of scissors, you're going to bring me one scissors. That sounds weird even saying it there. You're going to bring me one pair of scissors. But it ends in S. I don't know why when we developed the English language that this was decided, but that's just what it is. So since it ends in S, it's referring to one thing. However, we're still going to give it the plural verb. So scissors are not practice for shredding paper. Another type of special subjects are when an amount is referred to as amount referred to as a single unit is singular. So we have two examples here. 10 years. Okay, 10 years. It ends in an S, so you might automatically think plural, but it's referring to it as one set of time. 10 years seems like a long time, so you need to use the singular verb seems. And the next example, 5 cents is the deposit on one bottle. Again here, cents ends in an S, however, it's referring to one group, one unit of money, one cost, and so you're going to use the singular verb with it. When a number referred to as an individual units is plural. So again, we have the same subjects as we did before. 10 years have passed since you left. Well, in this instance, 10 years, it's talking about each of those 10 years. It's talking about the individual units of the years. They have passed since you left. In the next example, 5 cents are in my hand. And here, cents is referring to the 5 individual pennies, and so it's plural, and you need to use the plural verb are. And then a title of a book or work of art is singular even if a noun in the title is plural. So our example here, recycling successes is our subject. It is plural. However, it's one book, so we're going to use the singular verb is. So at this point, you're going to stop and you're going to complete the practice. I do want to go over exercise 5 and 6 with you. Exercise 5, if you look, go ahead and if you don't have your book, look at the doc so that you, exercise 5, it asks you to locate the collective noun and find the verb, and then if they agree, write correct. So if you look at number 2, 15 is the average number of refillings for a returnable bottle. What is our subject? 15. The verb is, and it is correct. Well, I'll put number 1 there, but it should have been number 2. For exercise 6, write the correct form of the verb in parentheses. So this should be simple. Just write the correct form of the verb. I did correct it there. Okay. Exercise 6, so we look at number 2. The committee decide or decides among themselves. It is decide, because if you look after the verb options, you see the plural pronoun themselves. That kind of indicates that the subject is plural. So go ahead and pause and complete the rest of your practice, and then hit play and move on. So let's talk briefly about indefinite pronouns as subjects. I'm not going to talk a ton about what they are. I'm going to very briefly recap it because we went over this in great detail in the pronoun unit. An indefinite pronoun is a pronoun that does not refer to a specific person, place, or thing. Here's a chart that lets you know whether or not they're singular or plural or both. I want you to pay attention real quick to the last column here. All, any, most, none, and some. They can be either singular or plural. It just depends on the phrase that follows. So you have to kind of do a little bit more investigating before you can decide which verb is correct. So I left this chart here for us because I think it's going to be helpful. And we look at the 2 examples. Most of the forest lies to the east. So if you look at the chart, most falls under the both category. So here's the process. You look at the phrase that follows most. What is the object of the preposition in the prepositional phrase of the forest? You should say forest. Is forest singular or is forest plural? Forest is singular. So you're going to choose the singular verb lies to go with it. In the next example, some of the ferns are large. Some is plural here. Why do we know that? If you think about the process we just went through with the previous example. Well, it is followed by the prepositional phrase of the ferns. Ferns is the object of the preposition, and it's plural, so you're going to choose the plural verb. So when you see all, any, most, none, and some, you know that you're going to have to look for a prepositional phrase that follows to be able to determine if it's singular or if it's plural. So you're going to go ahead and stop and do the practice here. In exercise 7, it asks you to write the indefinite pronoun and then whether or not it's singular or plural. So number 2, all of the needed information is printed in the lab manual. The indefinite pronoun is all, and it is singular. So go through the rest of the evens, and all you have to do is find the indefinite pronoun, write it down, and say if it's singular or plural. Exercise 8, it's just asking you to write the correct form of the verb that's in parentheses. So for number 2, it says few completely understand or understands it. So first of all, what is what is the indefinite pronoun? It's few. If you go back to our chart, few, which is few singular or plural? It is plural, so you're going to have to choose the plural verb, which is understand. They understand, few understand. Okay, so go ahead and pause, finish exercise 7 and 8, and then click play when you're ready to continue. Our last section that we're going to briefly cover is agreement with compound subjects. Again, we've already touched on this, but we're just going to quickly review it as well. So compound subject. A compound subject is just two or more simple subjects for the same verb. When they are joined by and or both and, the verb is plural. So for example, New York, London, and Denver have smog. So anytime you see the compound subjects connected by and or both and, it's plural, and you have to use the plural verb. This is why they use have instead of has. There is one exception. There's always an exception in English, right? Well, this one, when and joins two words that are part of one unit or referred to a single person or thing, it is singular. So our example here is the captain and leader of the team is Joan. Both captain and leader are referring to one person, so you have to use the singular verb are. If we were talking about two people here, we would use the plural verb, or plural verb are. I'm sorry, I think I said that wrong. Because it's captain and leader is referring to one person, we're using the singular verb is instead of the plural verb are. And another key tip here is when joined by or either or neither nor, the verb agrees with the subject closer to it. So generally speaking, and is always plural unless it's just referring to one person or thing. But or, either or, neither nor, you always have to do a little extra step. You have to find the subject that's closest to the verb. So the city or state responds to pollution complaints. So let's find the verb real quick. Responds. Okay, so what's the subject closest to our verb responds? That would be state. Okay, so state, it's singular, so you're going to use the singular verb responds. And then the last one, either smoke or gases cause the smog. Either or, it's where, that indicates we need to check and see what subject's closest to the verb. The verb is cause. So what's our subject that's closest to it? Gases. Gases is plural, so you're going to use the plural verb cause. And that is the end of that, and we're just to the practice. Again, this has all been reviewed, so I know it's not worth spending a crazy amount of time on, but I do want to cover it with you just because it's really important. So exercise 9, it asks you to write the correct form of the verb in parentheses. So number 2 says, rainforest and deserts make or makes good study sites. Well, what type of conjunction connects them? And. Very good. And it's referring to two different things, the rainforest and the deserts. So it's going to be plural. So what would verb? We would choose the verb make as the option. Again, if it's plural, just put the plural pronoun they in that spot and then read the verb, and you should be able to find which one's correct. In exercise 10, they want you to write the compound subjects and then tell whether or not they're singular or plural. So television bulletins or radio announcements. This is our compound subject from number 2. It says television bulletins or radio announcements warn people to evacuate. Well, we see that it's got the conjunction or, so we know we're going to have to take a little bit of a closer look. Announcements is closest to the verb. It's plural, so we have a plural verb. Okay, guys, we're to the end of the unit and the end of our practice. Go ahead and finish up this practice and then take a picture of your work and upload it. If you have any questions, please make a comment.